Hello everybody, it's Mr. Frazier here with another quick tutorial for you. Right now we're going to be focusing on writing for social studies. I want to remind you before we begin that these tutorials are unscripted, and because of that I will sound silly and ridiculous at times, but that's kind of the fun of it. So when we write for social studies, we really need to remember that there's a particular process that needs to be involved in order to successfully show that we fully understand. After all, when we write for any nonfiction subject, but specifically social studies, we're really trying to show that there is a thought process. We're trying to make it so that the reader doesn't have to work hard to understand us, and we're trying to be as productive as possible in order to move forward. So let's take a look at our notes right now. There are 3 rules for writing for social studies. The first one is you need to write like you are right. And that is my favorite rule ever. Write like you are right. The key to writing for social studies is to use statements that put you in a place of authority. You need to write as if you cannot be incorrect. So you want to avoid phrases like maybe, or sort of, or kind of. You also want to make sure that when you write like you're right, that you're using phrases or wording that is academic and does not take away from your authority. Secondly, you want to keep to the point. You do not ramble when you write for social studies. You keep the structure, you keep the form, and you continue moving on. Third, everything must connect. When you bring up something in the writing, you need to make sure it connects to what came before it and what's going to come after it. So when we write for social studies, there will be a lot of planning because everything needs to make sense and it needs to connect. Now when we write for social studies, what we're really talking about is pretty much any type of writing that involves the social studies areas. So for example, history, geography, psychology, sociology, economics, and the like. This includes presentations, essays, and reports, creative responses like summaries, syntheses, letters, and etc. So it can be varied, and it won't necessarily always have to keep this formal long essay, but it always follows the same steps that we're going to explore next. No matter what we do, we need to make sure it follows this structure. The structure of social studies writing involves these 3 steps. First, you're going to make a suggestion or a statement. For example, the people of South America speak Spanish because of the history of being colonized by Spain. That's a statement. That's inarguable. I said it from a place of authority, and I kept to the rules of writing for social studies. Step 2 is you provide evidence. So for this we could have said, in 1492, Columbus sailed to the New World, and after him came generations of Spaniards looking for gold and religious conversion. Third, we explain the evidence's connection to the suggestion or statement. So now we would say something along the lines of, because of this continued connection to Spain, Spanish culture, including language, came to the New World. So as you can see, we go through these 3 steps, and we'll continue to go through these 3 steps. So step 1, you should make a suggestion or statement. Step 2, you provide evidence, sometimes in the form of a quote. And step 3, you explain the evidence's connection to the suggestion or statement. So quality social studies writing will always do these A, B, C, and D. First, you need to avoid the usage of the word I. You need to stay in the expository. So that means you're writing in an academic manner, and unless the prompt, the question, says you, we shouldn't see the word I. And that's key to giving yourself authority, which again is that rule, write like you are right. B, you need to use transition words and phrases between statements of main ideas, which is your step 1. And C, you need to explain the supporting detail with proper transitions and logic. And lastly, you need to assume the reader has no prior knowledge. You need to assume the reader has been living under a rock and has no idea of any of the information you're trying to explain. You need to be as clear as possible to make sure that anybody with any prior knowledge can read your work and understand it. I want to go back quickly to the structure of social studies writing. Step 1, the suggestion or statement. This can be pretty much pulled from your main idea. So your step 1 is a restatement of your main idea. This is why it's so critical that you carefully, and I say it on purpose, that you carefully read for social studies. And when you keep track of your reading, you change the words into your own. That way you can simply pull those main ideas over. Step 2 is you provide evidence. This evidence could have been your supporting details from your reading. So, the main ideas, step 1. The supporting details, pretty much step 2. Again, with those transition words or phrases. Step 3 needs to be your own words, your own connection. This uses and always starts with phrases like therefore, or thus, or due to this, or because of this and many factors, and all these other transition words or phrases that show that you're about to explain the information. And when we explain the information, again, don't forget, you need to write like you write, and you need to assume nobody understands the connection without you explaining it. So we're going to introduce you now to summaries, the most basic form of writing for social studies. Summaries are to explain the reading or event or source that you just experienced prior to the writing. A quality summary will be accurate, be supported by details, and pulls from the main ideas and supporting details of the source. So for example, any reading you do, you could quickly write a summary. And again, you take step 1, the repeating of a statement. That statement would be the main idea. So the author is the author of this article, or this article explores this, and this. So that's the main idea. The second step is you provide a sample of supporting detail as evidence. Sometimes you'll combine supporting details so that they're more clear, and sometimes you might need to actually go about simply quoting. And third, you explain how the supporting details, connect to this. And you need to explain it. It is not enough to simply assume the reader understands why this supports this.